Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Major Garrett. As we continue to keep an eye on races in battleground states, tight contests in the Peach State, well, they continue to make headlines and therefore attract our attention. One of those races, of course, is for Georgia Senate seat. Incumbent Raphael Warnock, the Democrat, has a slim 3-point lead over Republican nominee Herschel Walker. That is according to the most recent polling average, and I stress polling average, calculated by Real Clear Politics. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us now from Atlanta. Nikole, how does that Senate race look to you? And I understand you had a chance to talk to Herschel Walker today.
Yeah, well, as you know, Major, this race remains very competitive and will likely do so up through Election Day. Of course, early voting has already started in the state where we have seen record turnout. Herschel Walker did hold a press conference earlier today where he railed against his opponent, Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock, and the church that Reverend Warnock is affiliated with because he contends that Warnock's church owns a building that is not necessarily treating its residents properly, that some residents are being evicted. And so he held a press conference to talk more about that. Warnock has contested those allegations, saying that they are false and that Walker is just trying to sully the name of his church. But in the course of all of that, Major, we did have a chance to ask Herschel Walker more specifically about some of the allegations he has faced recently regarding this woman that he allegedly paid for an abortion for over a decade ago. And I asked him about that, why he is being more forthcoming about that episode, and what voters should take away from that. Take a listen. When this Daily Beast story came out about a week or so ago, you said you did not know who that woman was. Now you acknowledge that is the mother of your child, that you did write that check. Why are you just now saying this, and what do you say to voters who question your truthfulness?
What I say is I found out what it was when I told everyone I found out was the time I found out. And I've answered that question time and time again. And my campaign now has been about going forward because I've been honest. And let's be who's not been honest. The person not been honest is Senator Warnock.
And so, as you heard there, Herschel Walker really trying to turn the page on this whole episode with respect to that Daily Beast story, but with respect to a lot of the allegations that he has faced and questions that he has faced about his past. In terms of Senator Warnock, he continues to paint his opponent as someone who is not trustworthy and who hasn't been forthcoming with voters. So this will, I think, continue to be a line of attack from both sides. And quite frankly, that is a concern in terms of talking to voters about both candidates. They really just want these candidates to be truthful with them, to be honest with them. But many of them have started making up their minds. And like I said, early voting here in the state will continue over the course of the next 3 weeks.
And Nikole, I'm glad you mentioned early turnout is setting records. It's important to note that Georgians are already voting. That was an issue, that is to say, voting and access in the gubernatorial debate that went on between Stacey Abrams, the Democratic nominee, and incumbent Republican Brian Kemp. Give us your thoughts not only on that race, but the aftermath of that debate.
Yeah, well, look, in terms of this race for governor, it's also being closely watched. In terms of the polling, there are some polls that show this gubernatorial race extremely tight between Governor Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams, but other polls that show a much wider spread. And so that's why last night's debate was really critical for both candidates. In the case of Stacey Abrams, it really was about trying to close the gap with the governor. Of course, the governor stands somewhat of an advantage being an incumbent, and that is certainly something that he played to in last night's debate, really trying to talk up the economy and what he feels his administration has done for the state of Georgia. He continues to argue that his state was one of the first to kind of unwind a lot of these restrictions during the pandemic. And so because of that, he feels that his state has been able to prosper. Stacey Abrams, on the other hand, continues to argue that Kemp's policies have not necessarily been beneficial for the state, particularly when it comes to the issue of health care access, with a number of hospitals closing in the state. So that is another race that, again, will likely continue to garner a lot of national attention. In fact, the Abrams campaign, we just learned, will now have some campaigning from Oprah Winfrey. She will be joining Stacey Abrams virtually on the campaign trail later this week. So as you know, Major, when we get into these final weeks, that's when, everybody starts to bring out the big names. names, including former President Obama, who also will be down here, not only campaigning for Stacey Abrams, but also Senator Warnock as well.
Nikole, very quickly, is there such a thing as a Kemp-Warnock voter in Georgia?
Well, it is, because we found a few. And quite frankly, I think it just comes down to the fact that they are both incumbents in their respective races. So you do find people who, for instance, with respect to Governor Kemp, are pleased with the direction of the state and the way that things are going. And similarly, with Senator Warnock, they feel that he has done a decent job in the U.S. Senate. From a character and personality standpoint, our polling has shown, more voters kind of drawn to his side, and he is polling ahead of Stacey Abrams. So that being said, look, as we said, all of these races will be close. You've got voters now kind of making those decisions in these final weeks, Major.
Nikole Killion, we thank you very much.